All right, so today's going to be the last new lesson that I teach you before your quiz tomorrow. We're in chapter 3 and 4 review, day 4. If you would please write down some of these rules for me about what to do when we have two-step equations. If you're curious or you want to go back to the longer lesson, if you go back to chapter 4.3, that's what today's lesson is coming from. All right, so the rules that you see here, first thing it says is add or subtract, and then you will multiply or divide every time. And finally, what does this last line say? All right, so there's this concept or this idea that we talked about a long time ago that the variable has a best friend, and that best friend is whatever letter is attached to it, okay? Do you guys remember that idea? All right, so who is X's best friend in this case? 3. The 3. If you would, take your red pen. Do you guys remember that we drew a heart around it saying keep those together as long as you can? So you can see over here I have put some of these special words that we're going to be using as we're talking about getting that variable by itself. Okay, so everybody identify the variable for problem A. Variable. A variable is a letter. X. What is not allowing X to be alone? I want you to use these words over here in add by 12. What else is not allowing it to be alone?
2.
What about the 2? Multiply by 2. Okay, so use those words that we've got over there in the cloud. One of them is his best friend. It's going to stay together as long as possible. Who is that?
2.
The 2. Take your red pen, draw a little heart around it, because we're going to keep the 2 and the X together as long as we can. So instead, I've got to get rid of what you guys said was add by 12. Anson, what's the opposite of add by 12? Subtract by 12. Class, what you do to one side? We have to be fair, and we're going to do it to the other side. So drop down that equal sign. Plus 12 and minus 12 cancels out. And on the left side, all that's left is 2 times x. On the right side, Aubrey, what's 4 minus 12? Double check. 4 minus 12. Same sign, add and keep, different sign, subtract, and take the sign of the larger number. Negative 8, there you go. Okay, now it is time for the best friends to be separated. Adam, how do I get rid of that 2?
Divide by 2.
You are correct. Because right now it's 2 times x, in order to get rid of times 2, I have to divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 equals 1x, so I'm just going to bring down that 1x. And Zariana, what's negative 8 divided by 2? Negative 4 is correct. That is our final answer, so if you guys would please box that in. Now I want you to drop down your equal sign, because if you remember, we are always trying to keep our equal signs all lined up so that our work is nice, straight, and neat. I am simply going to rewrite that original problem. 2 times x plus 12 equals 4. But since we know what x is, we're not going to write 2 times x. What am I going to write? 2 times negative 4. So get rid of that x, and we're going to put in here times negative 4. According to PEMDAS, should I multiply first or should I add first?
Multiply.
We have to multiply first. So, Aubrey, what is 2 times negative 4? Negative 8 plus 12. And we want the answer to equal 4. Christopher, looking at this right here, what is negative 8 plus 12? 4. Class, does 4 equal 4?
Yes.
Give yourself a mini check mark because it did check out. Any questions? Zion.
So, okay, so the answer is negative 4 there. So when we checking it, do we keep it negative 4 or do we add it?
Correct. When you're checking it, you are going to put in whatever it is that we found that x equals. All right, let's move on. X has a best friend. He's different this time. Who is he? What about the negative 3? Multiply by negative 3, okay? But since they're best friends, we're going to say, sure, stay here for a while, hang out for a bit, okay? So Justice, what should I do first? Good job. We're going to subtract by 5 on both sides. Drop down that equal sign. Let's work from left to right. Justice, what's 2 minus 5? Negative 3. We know the plus 5 and the minus 5 cancel out, and on the right side I'm left with negative 3x. Justice, how do I get x by itself? Okay, so look what she said. She did not say to divide by 3, but she noticed that the coefficient, or the number that's attached to the letter, is a negative 3. So we're dividing by negative 3 on both sides. So now on the right-hand side, negative 3 divided by negative 3 equals 1x. And then, class, what's negative 3 divided by negative 3? 1, because a number divided by its exact self always equals 1. You could switch the order and say x equals 1, or you could leave it as 1 equals x. It means the same thing. Kaylin, will you help me to check this?
Sure. 2 equals negative 3x plus 5. And then under it, we do 2 equals negative 3 times 1 plus 5.
All right, so we're multiplying it times 1 instead of times x. So we're dropping down the 2, dropping down the equals. On the right-hand side, we want to do negative 3 times 1 first. What is that?
Negative 3.
Negative 3. And then what is negative 3 plus 5?
Positive 2.
Okay,
Maybe.
that does in fact, yes, because it's same sign, add and keep, different signs, subtract and take. Therefore, 2 does equal 2. Give yourself a mini check mark because it did check out. All right, we have one more problem in this section. I want you guys to do this with your partner. All right, let's see how we did. For this problem, guys, who is M's best friend? 2. So don't touch the 2, okay? We're going to get rid of that 6, so we have to subtract 6 on both sides, leaving us with M divided by 2 equals 4. Okay, as I looked around, many people got that the answer was 2. You got to be careful. Don't leave it just like this, okay? How do I get rid of divide by 2?
Multiply by 2.
We have to multiply by 2 on both sides. If you do that, then you find that what? M equals 8. So now we've got to check this. Instead of M divided by 2, we're going to put in 8 divided by 2 plus 6 equals 10. Guys, what's 8 divided by 2? 4. Is it true that 4 plus 6 equals 10?
Yes.
Yes, so give yourself a mini check mark. All right, so hopefully you wrote this down with your red pen. Always combine the like terms before solving. So for us, our lingo that we say is combine the things that are in the same family, right? So what family do we have here on problem D?
Y.
The Y family. If you would, just underline it. That tells me, hey, I got to combine those before I move on to try to figure out what Y is. Guys, what's 3Y minus 8Y? Negative 5y. Okay, remember, those are different signs, so you want to subtract them and then take the sign of the larger number. Okay? Now, Heather, what is not allowing the y to be alone? The negative 5. What about the negative 5? Remember those words we talked about at the beginning? Multiply by negative 5. Good job. So how do I get rid of multiply by negative 5? Very good. We're going to divide by what? Excellent. Okay, so once again, remember, the coefficient that is there is a negative 5. So we're going to divide not by 5, but by negative 5. So this helps me to cancel this out. I'm left with 1y equals, Addison, what is 25 divided by negative 5? Negative 5. Okay. Now we're going to plug this back in. Remember, our original problem said 3 times y minus 8 times y equals 25. Forget the times y, and instead we're going to multiply by negative 5 for both of these.
Yep, I got that.
All right, let's just work step by step. First things first, Zion, what's 3 times negative 5? Negative 15, very good. Now I'm going to drop down my minus sign, and then I've got to multiply 8 times negative 5. Guys, what's 8 times negative 5?
40.
Negative 40 equals 25. All right, what do you see there?
Double negative.
A double negative, so let's turn that into a monster positive. Now I'm left with negative 15 plus 40. Subtract. What's 40 minus 15?
25.
Take the sign of the larger number, which is a positive. So is this a true statement? 25 equals 25?
Yes.
Yes, give yourself a mini check mark. Let's go on to the next one. Do you guys see any like terms?
Positive 3 and positive 4.
4 and 3. Now what about this negative 9? Should I also underline that? No, why not?
Because it's the answer.
It's the answer. It's on the other side of the equal sign, so we're just going to leave that there. What should I bring down first, the variable term or the constant?
Variable.
Always bring down the variable term. 2y. Kyla, what's next?
You subtract by 7 on both sides. Cross out the add by 7 and subtract by 7. And negative 9 plus negative 7 equals negative 16. 2y equals negative 16. Divide by 2 on both sides. You get y equals negative 8. Then to check.
Okay, hold right there. Does everyone understand what she's done so far?
You can't do what she's saying, but I have that.
All right, back to Kyla. When I check it, what do I do?
You rewrite the equation and line up the equal sign.
All right, I have rewritten the equation. Now what?
You replace the y with negative 8.
So I just put like a negative 8 like this.
No, you have to multiply.
Good job. So keep those parentheses in there. What should I do first now?
You multiply 2 and negative 8 and get negative 16.
Excellent. Now what do you do?
Plus 4 plus 3, which is 7, so negative 16 plus 7 equals negative 9.
Okay, so what she did is she combined the positives, 4 and 3. She knew that was 7. And then she did negative 16 plus 7. And what did you say it equals?
Negative 9.
Negative 9. And that is, in fact, what we want. So give yourself a mini check mark. Okay, so as I just saw some of your answers, there's two most common answers that I saw. I saw negative 2 and I saw negative 0.5. How many of you would say... All right, sorry about that. How many of you would say you got one of those two answers? So here's the deal. Your quiz tomorrow and also on your final, it's going to be a multiple choice exam. So what you can always do, now there's typically going to be 4 choices, but you could take the choices that are given there and plug them in and kind of work backwards and see if they're correct or not. So let's just start with this first one right here. If we were going to do this backwards idea, okay, instead of 4 times x, what would I plug in?
4 times negative 2.
4 times negative 2 plus 5 equals 3. Let's work with this first. What's 4 times negative 2? Negative 8 plus 5 equals 3. Let's keep working with this side. Same sign or different sign?
Different.
Same side, add a keep, different sign, subtract, and take the sign of the larger number. When I subtract and take the sign of the larger number, what do I get? Is this a true statement? No. Negative 3 and 3 are very different, which means this could not be the answer. So I could come over here and essentially eliminate that answer. Does that make sense? Then you could try the other options and kind of see, hey, when I'm plugging those in, do those make sense, yes or no? All right? Let's go to this problem. We're going to do it together and see what answer we come up with. Keep the 4 and x together as long as possible. As I looked at your work, I did see most people got to this step. How many of you would say you at least got there? Okay, then people are like, oh yeah, 4 needs to go away now, so we divide by 4. At this point, this is when people got the wrong answer. Here's the deal. 2 divided by 4 is not the same thing as 4 divided by 2. Remember how we've talked about that? You've got to take the top number, the 2, and divide it by the 4. Okay? If you do that, 0.5. Now, coming back over here, that was a negative. So is my answer going to be positive or negative? Negative. It is going to be negative. Now here's another way. If I look at this, can 2/4 be reduced at all?
Yes.
What does 2/4 reduce to? Reduce, fraction.
Oh, 1/2.
A half. You can divide by 2 on the top. You can divide by 2 at the bottom. When you do that, you would find out that your answer is -1/2. Or in this case, for those of you who did the decimal, -0.5. Okay, now I do not care which one you give to me, whether it's a fraction or a decimal. You would have to look at your multiple choice options to see. In this case, it looks like the multiple choice option might have been over here with that negative. Okay, that was a decimal. So let's start plugging this in. 4 times -0.5 plus 5 equals 3. Let's look at, first off, 4 times -0.5. Is that going to be a positive or a negative? That's going to be a negative. And if I come over here, 4 times 0.5, what does that equal? Okay, 2.0, which is just a 2. So I have -2 plus 5 equals 3. Class, what is -2 plus 5?
3.
3. Does 3 equal 3?
Yes.
Yes. How many of you would say that you got it correct and you checked it and it also checked out correctly? Okay. All right, so the only homework that I want you doing tonight is I want you just to kind of review for our quiz tomorrow. Remember, it's over days 1 through 4 of this packet of notes that we've talked about today.